Okay, sorry about that. I got cut off somehow. So, I'm on rule 4. This is the last part of 3-4. Negative times a negative. So, a negative times a negative is a positive. And a negative divided by a negative is also positive. So let me do an example of both of those. So -3 times -2. I see I've got a negative times a negative, +6. If I have a -10 divided by a -5, I see I've got a negative divided by a negative, +2. So if you need to keep these rules in front of you, just till you get accustomed to doing these types of problems, you can when you're doing your homework. I'm sure they're also in the book. But let's try some problems. Make sure we got it. And if you have the book, the first edition, I'm on page 247. So I'm just looking at some of these. Let's see. What is 9? This is how it's written in the book. So I'm sure it's going to be written like this in the homework. What is 9 times, there's an implied times here. What's 9 times -7? So I know what sign is it going to be. It's a positive times a negative. Whenever you see that negative in there, it's going to be negative. So that's going to be a -63. What if I have a -1 times a -5? And there's a times there, you don't see it. But a -1 times a -5, I have a negative times a negative. And if you look at rule 4, which is right up here, a negative times a negative is a positive. So this is +5. What if I have a -28 divided by a +7? I've got a negative divided by a positive. So that's rule 3. It's going to be negative. It's going to be -4. I'm going to put this one. What if I have a -84 divided by a -6? We could do long division on that if we're not sure, and we can check it, we can punch it in the calculator. So I'm going to try long division on that. And I'm going to take, I'm just going to do a 6 into 84. And I know it's a negative divided by a negative, so I know my final answer is going to be positive. So I'm going to take 6 into 84. 6 goes into 8 once. I'm going to subtract down. 8 minus 6 is 2. I'm going to bring down the 4. And 6 goes into 24 4 times. No remainder. So my answer is going to be a positive 14, because I have a negative divided by a negative. Okay, let's go a little bit harder What if I had something like this? So that's 8 times negative 4. And something similar to these are on the bottom of 247. So again, I'm still on 247. So this is like a PEMDAS problem. So I'm going to just go left to right, and I'm multiplying first. So I'm multiplying, that comes up first, like I said, going left to right. So what's 8 times negative 4? It's a positive times a negative. So this is a negative 32. And then I'm just going to keep going according to PEMDAS. And I'm going to take 5 times negative 2. And that's a positive times a negative. So this is a negative 10. You can put it in parentheses, or you don't have to if you don't want to. So I've got a negative 32 and a negative 10 minus 2. So I'm going to keep going left to right. We've been talking about that all in the past section. What is a negative 32 and a negative 10? Just put them together. If you want, I can do it on the calculator. So negative sign, negative 32 plus a negative 10. Just writing it as it is. And when we put the two negatives together, remember, we add them. So here we kind of have to know how to multiply them and how to add and subtract them. So it's kind of a lot. So I'm just adding these two negatives together, and I get a negative 42. Okay. So right now I've got a negative 42 minus a 2, or a negative 42 plus a negative 2. So this is the same thing. I've got a negative 42 and a negative 2. We're going to add them together, right? We're not multiplying or dividing. We're adding them together. What's negative 42 and negative 2? Negative 44. I'm just putting them together. And if you'd like to look at some more of those, they are on the bottom of 247. And I would definitely check these on my calculator. And there's a few other things that are on the bottom. There's something that looks like, what if I have something like this? Whoops. That is not there. This is an error. Okay. So remember, this means negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. Right? Because I have the exponent 3. So let's just go left to right. What's negative 5 times negative 5? Well, a negative times a negative is a positive. So this is a positive 25. And then I'm just going to bring down that negative 5. And again, with PEMDAS, we want to go left to right. But now I've got a positive times a negative. And when I have a positive times a negative, I believe that's rule number 2, and I'm showing this negative here, this is going to be a negative 125. So a kind of shorthand quickie way, if you have an even number of negatives, your answer is going to be positive. If you have an odd number of negatives, like here there's only one negative, your answer is going to be negative. So if you have an even number of negatives, so if you have something like negative 6 times negative 6, I've got 2 negatives. So an even number of negatives, that's going to be a positive 36. If I have an odd number, like if I have negative 6 times negative 6 times negative 6, I've got 3 negatives. I've got an odd number, that's going to be a positive. I'm sorry, that's going to be a negative. So even number, answer is positive. Odd number, got 3 negatives here. Answer is negative. I don't know if that helps. So this is going to be a negative 216. I hope that helps. So and this only works for the exponent problems. But if you need to have this in front of you when you do your homework, by all means do it. And the last thing I'm going to do is evaluate. And we did this in the last section. I want to evaluate 3p minus 3q plus 8, where p is 9 and q is negative 4. Okay, so let me get another sheet of paper out. And I'm going to bump that up a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to evaluate that. So I'm evaluating 3p minus 3q plus 8. Remember, that means to plug in. They're giving me p is 9 and q is negative 4. So I'm taking and plugging in 9 right here for p and negative 4 for q, and then I'm going to work it out. Okay? So 3 times 9, because 9 is p, minus 3 times negative 4 plus 8. Okay, so let's just go left to right for PEMDAS. So 3 times 9, got a positive 3 and a positive 9. That's just a regular multiply, that's 27. Now here I've got a negative 3 times a negative 4. So always look and see which sign is in front of your number. So I've got a negative 3 times a negative 4. A negative times a negative is a positive 12. And I bring down that plus 8. And so then I'm just adding all positive numbers together, 27 plus 12 plus 8. And this is 39 plus 8. And so my final answer is 47. Okay, and let's put this number from this, this problem in the calculator to make sure. I want to check it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to here, my original problem, and I'm just going to put this in the calculator just as is. Okay, so I'm going to put in 3. I always forget to turn that sucker on. Okay, so I'm going to put 3, this up a bit, 3 times 9, okay, subtract 3 times parenthesis -4, negative down by the enter, close it up, plus 8. So can everybody see that? Okay. I'm just writing it as is. 3 times 9 minus 3 times parenthesis -4, close the parenthesis up, plus 8, hit enter, and we got 47, which is what I got, so we're good. So try some of these on the homework for 3-4. If you need me to do some more problems, some more PEMDAS, or some more evaluate, let me know.